Today on Locked On Red Wings, Detroit is going to reveal their jersey ad today, and there's no question here, it just sucks.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. I'm a podcast producer for the Daily J, a WWJ News Radio podcast. Well, Scotty's host over at Locked On Tigers, as well as a freelance journalist for the Detroit News. And today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download Gametime app, create an account, and use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. And you know, Scotty, we're riding the high vibes. We were riding the wave of good emotions following the Red Wings' sixth straight win. And I wanted to come on here today and talk about how the Red Wings are defying analytic models, defying even basic stats that aren't analytics, like things like Corsi, which is just counting the amount of shot attempts in a game. The Red Wings defy all those metrics at 5-on-5, and it's baffling national media. And I really wanted to come on here and talk about that today. But then the Red Wings just had to rain on my parade and announce that they are going to be revealing their jersey patch partner, as they put it, on Thursday, which is today by the time you guys are listening to this. And that made me very upset, to put it lightly. It frustrated me. And I knew it was a long time coming, but it just feels like a massive shame to be putting a jersey patch, i.e. an advertisement, on one of the best uniforms in, I would argue, and I'm biased, I'm a hockey fan, but not just professional hockey, but professional sports.
Yeah, you're completely right. I mean, this is, and again, we obviously have our bias here, but I do strongly believe that the Red Wings jerseys are amongst the best in all of sports, and it sucks, but it's been inevitable for a while. I mean, Same ownership group put one on the Tigers sleeve a year ago, so like this was always going to happen, and it sucks. But yeah, the writing's been on the wall with this for a while, so now you kind of just hope and pray that it's not, you know, disgustingly awful, and it at least kind of sort of blends in a little bit.
Well, and I remember 2 preseasons ago now, the Red Wings had shrunk the letters and moved the captain's patches back to the left side above the tip. And that was very clearly an indication that they were freeing up the space where the letters were for a jersey patch advertisement. But at the time, they'd never found one, or they hadn't found one. Their deal never got struck. And so the Red Wings letter, while it maintained the smaller size, got moved back to over the right side, underneath the right shoulder. So, like you said, it's been inevitable from the get-go. It was inevitable from the moment they put helmet ads on helmets as well. The Red Wings sponsor there was originally UWM. It's Meyer now. And I went on a huge tirade a couple years ago. I don't know if it was with us on Locked On Red Wings or with my previous podcast.
No, it was Breakout. It was about the helmets, yeah.
It was about the helmets, and we had Max Boltman on, and I went on a tirade. Like, I was frustrated because I knew that it meant eventually they would get on uniforms too. And I was right. And then when they started coming out on uniforms, I was like, I went on a tirade again about how frustrated I was that they continue to sell advertisers everywhere. I mean, we're already so inundated with advertisements at every level of the game experience at every sport. But the NHL is no exception. I mean, they're running out of spaces to put ads to the point now that they're digitally overlaying them on pre-existing ads along the boards, which last year I went on a tirade about. This year it's much better incorporated. I'm used to it. And that's the thing too, is like I'm used to helmet ads. And that's why they're comfortable doing this, because they know, even though I'm upset now, and while I accept the reality of what this is, and I know I can't stop it, they know eventually I will get used to it and stop noticing it. Because that's what's happened with the helmet ads. That's what's happened with the digital board ads. Those got better. Now I hardly notice it. Although the digital ads on the ice still are pretty egregious sometimes, because when the camera moves, the ad moves. Like a jitter. But, right. I'm at a stage where it's almost apathy about it, where it's just, it's wrong and I don't like it, I will never accept it, but I understand that this is the direction it's going. And I think the part that frustrates me the most with it is it's a step that the NHL and other professional sports don't have to take. Like when you look at your clubs in Europe, a lot of those clubs from Europe depend on those jersey patches to fund their team. But at the NHL level, that's not the case. The NHL, a lot of the money comes from the NHL. It supports these NHL franchises. So the need for a jersey patch to help keep your club afloat isn't there. They're just doing it to extra line their pockets. And, maybe somebody over in, I don't know, Columbus, for instance, maybe Jay Forrester feels differently because it's not an original 6 uniform. They got founded in the 90s. So that maybe the connection isn't there. I'm putting words into his mouth, but when it comes to an original 6 uniform, especially one that is routinely rated amongst the best in the NHL, the idea of not even putting a jersey patch on a uniform, but moving your letters, your captaincy letters, to make room for a jersey ad is even more egregious. And I know back when Yzerman was captain, that's where the letter originally was. It was above the tip, but they moved it to an area that had more space. But it's just the fact that it really feels like selling out. Like you're selling out your captaincy for a ad patch when we're already so inundated with those things.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, obviously I don't disagree with anything you said. That episode that we did, I mean, I talked a lot more about what you just kind of mentioned there. And it was about the fact that in, a few weeks or months or whatever, people, or maybe it'll take a little bit longer with the Wings, fans and the relationship that we have with the jersey. But that was the whole conversation we had with the helmet ads. Was you were like, this is, awful. And you were really upset about it. And I was like, I don't support this, but like, we're all going to get used to it. And like, it's not going to be a talking point in a few months. And you were like, that's my point, is like, I don't want that to be the case. Like, I don't want and it was, we really dove kind of a lot more into the slippery slopeness of it all and how that's kind of what they're setting up for. And that, here we are now, right? 2 years later, you and I still somehow both have our jobs and we have patches on jerseys. Like it's
somehow
like
still have our jobs.
Right. And so, yeah, man, it's, again, it was inevitable. Like I'm upset that the day has come, but I'm not like the most passionately mad like fan out there just because I just watched the same ownership group put it on a 100-year-old jersey a year ago, right? Like the city has already seen this movie before, and obviously different ownership group, but like the Pistons did it, just before the Tigers as well. Like it's the way of the road now. And it was, especially as you mentioned, I guess I'm just talking in circles. I don't want to just repeat everything you said, but yeah, once they moved the letter, then you really kind of knew that it was coming. So it sucks that the day is here. It's a talking point. Obviously everyone's upset. I think everyone should be upset. You have every right to be upset. It feels like tainting something that is,
pure,
like on a pedestal. And that's sad. That is like really, really sad. But this was always going to happen, man. And that I think is probably the part that hurts the most to me, is like, not even that it's actually here. I accepted that it was going to happen a while ago.
Well,
it's more just that, like, that's tomorrow.
Like it's today by the time people are listening.
Right. Yeah. It's today as people are listening to this. Obviously we record on Wednesday. So, yeah, I think that's kind of just, the fact that it's here sucks. The fact that they're doing it, I accepted about two years ago.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm with you in that regard. I knew it was going to come eventually.
Yeah. But that's your point, right? Like the
yeah.
slippery slope. And like, are we just going to keep doing it? And eventually we're going to look like,
the answer is yes.
Right. Eventually we're going to look like the SHL, and it's just going to be, covered in ads all over the place. Like that's going to be sad.
I do think that it will not get to that level like ever, because I mean, I won't say ever because who knows. But
yeah, watch it.
To get to the SHL level is going to take decades, I feel.
Agree.
Because
that's
again, they do it to keep their clubs afloat. They need the money.
Those a lot more, yeah.
That being said, I do. With all that being said, And with the caveat of you all knowing while I say this, that I do not accept it and I never want it to happen, but me accepting the reality that it is happening, there are ways I feel like it can be tastefully done. And I want to touch on that a little bit in segment 2 before talking about Sebastian Cossa and previewing the Islanders. So stay tuned for that. Segment 2 of Locked On Red Wings coming up. Got to talk to you guys today about Gametime. They're the only ticketing service that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. You can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. All-in prices show your total upfront, so you know what you're getting before you check out. Buy tickets in 2 seconds with 2 taps. They're obsessed with finding ways to help you save money on tickets. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour into the event as well.
My favorite feature.
Your favorite
is multiple times.
Well, you live in downtown, so there's plenty of times where you're like,
pop on over, baby.
What, you see the Red Wings go up 1-0. You're like, you know what? Maybe I do want to go to this game. So find exclusive flash deals and sponsor deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, hockey, comedy, theater, so much more. And with zone deals, you pick the section and Gametime picks the seats for big time savings. And that Gametime guarantee means that you'll always get the best price. They can save you up to 110% of the difference if you find tickets in the same section and row for less. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Scotty and I are talking about the jersey ads. And I said before the break, with the understanding that I accept that it's happening, but I'm not happy that it is happening. I do think there are ways that can be tastefully done. And I think
we're going through just steps of grief here, really. Like,
right.
It's just like, you know what, it's gonna happen. There's nothing we can do to stop it. So let's try and figure out if it's possible for it to at least somewhat, blend in.
I am at the coping stage right now, or if that's a stage, right? Coping. I don't know. 7 steps of grief or whatever it is. But you mentioned the Tigers, right? And how they have the Meyer on the sleeve. I like the way that was incorporated. One, it was on the sleeve and not the front of the jersey, but I understand that's because the batter's arm faces the camera. But it was also done to be just the logo in the color of the team's uniform. So it blends a lot more naturally than something you'll see the Montreal Canadiens have, where it's this giant blue logo on their red uniform up in the corner and it stands out like a sore thumb. Or what the Minnesota Wild have. While the background's green, it's a giant green patch that gets embroidered on.
Are the Pistons still Flag Star? Because
I think so.
That was whenever it was, even if it's not anymore. Like that was,
no, it's UWM now.
Red, white, and blue is the Pistons, and they had maybe that was their first one was Flag Star.
It was Flag Star, then it was UWM, I think.
Yeah, UWM is jumped around to a few of the teams around here, I guess. Yeah, so that makes sense too. But yeah, it definitely is UWM. But yeah, like when they had Flag Star, like that was obviously red on a red, white, and blue jersey. Like that was, incorporated well at least. So.
And that's what I mean. Like if you're gonna have a brand, give it rules, right? You don't want if they have a background, you don't want the background. You change the color to the opposite of whatever uniform they're wearing. So the Red Wings are wearing red, have it be white. If they're wearing white, have it be red. I mean the Toronto Maple Leafs, I joke a lot. The Maple Leafs have one that just says milk, and I love that. It just says milk on their jersey.
It's kind of sick. Yeah.
But on the blue jersey, it says milk in white.
Right.
On the blue white jersey, it says milk in blue. So those are ways. Again, I don't want them to have one, but it's happening. That's how I would like it to be done to make it a little bit less obvious. I'd also love if it was like on the shoulder or on the bottom of the back, but I know that no teams are going to do that because they want the highest visibility, and the highest visibility is going to be on the front.
For sure.
But I just want them to incorporate into the team's uniform design and not just slap the logo on the front, because that's going to make it a lot less glaring while still giving them the visibility that they want.
For sure. Yeah. And I mean, as people are listening to this, maybe it's already announced. So, not too much of a deeper conversation than that, but I agree with you. I at least hope that it is a red or a white logo would probably help ease the pain and ease the stinging of it a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, also, if you're going to do one, have it be a local company, which I'm pretty sure it will be, like Meyer's local, UWM's local. Those are all sponsors we've talked about now with Tigers, Pistons, and Red Wings at different times. They're local companies at least. Although
that Little Caesars patch is going to hit like a bus, baby.
I do not want a orange Little Caesars patch will kill me. Oh, an orange Little Caesars patch will absolutely kill me, and I will come on here.
That is going to hit like an absolute train.
I do not care how the Red Wings
locomotive.
I do not care how the Red Wings perform against the New York Islanders. If they come out with a Little Caesars patch, you're going to hear me screaming into the mic tomorrow. If it's orange Little Caesars patch, I will be screaming because that is going to clash so
happen.
poorly.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen, but it would be really, really funny in an awful way.
Yeah. I mean, we already have a giant orange Little Caesars man on the roof of LCA when we were supposed to get an LED roof, but that's a whole different topic for a different.
Detroit's coming. You just got to trust.
Yeah, dude. That dirt lot out in front of the LCA off Fisher Freeway, that's good. It's getting built up. It's only been 6 years.
Trust.
7 years now. Jeez. Anyways, Scotty, I think that. It's not a Michigan company, but if it was Red Wing boots, I would kind of love that. I would kind of love that, but
cool.
It would be kind of cool. That's the one where I'd be like, all right, that's kind of cool. I think it's a Minnesota-based company, so it's not local, so it contradicts what I just said. But that one at least is like the literal name the. You just have like the little Red Wing logo up here, so you have the logo up here and then on the chest.
Right, be kind of cool.
Be kind of cool. I could get behind that. It's the only one. That's the exception to the rule, not the rule itself. But Scott, we got a little bit of time left in segment 2. We'll probably carry this conversation in segment 3, but we didn't talk about it when it broke because we've just had a really busy week with the Red Wings just being a dominant hockey team on a 6-game win streak. But Sebastian Cossa was named the AHL Player of the Week for last week. He had allowed 2 goals in total in 2 games against the Milwaukee Admirals, who I believe are first place in the entire league. They were riding a 17-game win streak, something ridiculous like that. And then a 2-goal allowed performance against the the Texas Stars, the AHL affiliate of the Dallas Stars, who the Griffins were battling with for second in the division. So 2 big wins for the Grand Rapids Griffins, who are riding a 15-game point streak right now. Sebastian Cossa, I mean, he's doing the same thing he did last year with Toledo. He started off slow, and then at some point a switch got flipped. He adjusted to the level, and he's been lights out. So great to see Cossa get Player of the Week, and even better to see his numbers on the season just continue to climb.
Yeah, man, his numbers, he's got a .911 save percentage and a .261 goals against average in 24 games now. Not bad. Certainly not bad. I think that's really kind of re-injecting some confidence in the fan base in him. I mean, obviously I know that like the hot new toy is Trey Augustine, but I think that Cossa kind of reminding people of why he was taken in the first round, why they traded up to get him, et cetera, has been really nice. And so him just continuing to mature, right? I mean, goalies are so weird. So like seeing, the next year or 2 is going to be really, really important for him and going to be really important for development, obviously. But I mean, you look at this goaltending situation the Wings have right now, and this is a lot more of a big picture conversation maybe for the offseason, but like there's obviously Lyon's been fantastic. There's been some, Reimer's been good lately. Like you have some guys who have really stepped up and helped the team in the short term. But I still think there's huge question marks about the long-term goaltending situation of the team. And I think that ideally Sebastian Cossa is the answer to that bell. So seeing him step up and really, crush it at the highest non-NHL affiliated level is good to see for sure.
I mean, that's just it, right? And like, I can't talk enough about what those last two performances mean. I mean, 28 save shutty against the Texas Stars. I think that was a 1-0 win as well. So they only got 1 goal of support for him, and he held tall. And that was, again, that team they're battling with and had actually surpassed for second in the division on this 15-game point streak. And then the Milwaukee Admirals are like so far above everybody else that it's crazy that he went in there and on 39 shots against only allowed 2 goals. He made 37 saves in that game for, I think, a 3-2 victory as well. He's just been so good. And you talked about he's got a .911 save percentage on the season. Last time we talked about him, it was like .908. It's been steadily climbing the last 5 games with the Grand Rapids Griffins, he had a 936 save percentage. And in the last 10, he has a 933 save percentage. And that's with a sub 900 performance mixed in there. So with one sub 900 save percentage in the last 5, he's a 936 still overall.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been growing more and more consistent as the season goes on, and it's been fantastic to watch his development. And this is coming from a guy, and I'll call myself out on it. I panicked a little bit during the prospect development tournament when he, like, back-to-back games, he didn't play very well, to the point where I think he got only one game during spring training. Sorry, that's your thing. He got one game during the preseason because he had played so poorly during training camp that I was like, maybe he just doesn't have it at the next level. But he's shown his growth this year, and he's shutting me up, just like Patrick Kane did earlier in the year. He's shutting me up, and I love to see it because while they're, like you said, Trey Augustine, obviously the hot new toy, and the Red Wings have kind of figured out at least a temporary solution in net this year. I mean, long term, they still need that solution. So when we come back in segment 3, I want to ask the question, like, realistically, how much longer do we think it is for Sebastian Cossa, especially considering who the Red Wings have left on under contract for the years going forward? So we'll talk about that in segment 3 of Locked On Red Wings. Let's talk to you guys today about Sleeper. It's well past the halfway point of the NHL season, and the Detroit Red Wings are not just in the first wild card, they're sneaking up on the Toronto Maple Leafs for third in the Atlantic Division. What a time to be alive. What is happening?
What just happened? I don't know what just happened. That scared me.
That was awesome. Okay, well, if you guys aren't watching on YouTube, you need to watch on YouTube. Scotty just put like the rock out sign with his fingers, and like a laser show started behind him.
That was crazy. Shout out Sleeper. It must be Sleeper, dude.
Regardless of where you are in the current standings, I want to remind you guys that you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official, he's going to keep doing that, official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is the number one choice for daily fantasy sports, and especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey content. All you have to do is pick whether studs like Kane, DeBrincat, Shane Gostisbehere will record more or less than their sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more in a given game. To win 100 times bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Red Wings fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and the locational availability. Segment 3, Locked On Red Wings podcast. We figured out the new thing we're going to be doing after every Red Wings win. How did you?
But it's like, it's not a guarantee. I don't know how to I've done it twice now, though. I did repeat it at one point.
Yeah, I saw out of my peripheral you do it. That's wild. I'm going to clip that and post that on social media because that was wild.
I've never been more scared in my life. What the heck was that? Wild.
I thought you hit a button. Sebastian Cossa.
Yes.
Red Wings goaltending prospect. He's on fire right now. This is the second straight year. Started off a little slow and then hit just a huge growth spurt in terms of development in the net. With Husso and Lyon both under contract for one more year after this one, how soon are we expecting Sebastian Cossa to make his debut at the NHL level, and then 2, secure a spot in the crease as either starter or backup?
Yeah, this is still a year after next thing for me, and that's not a problem. This was, when we did talk about him in the preseason, and some of the fan base was a little antsy about it. Like, this was, if I remember right, maybe I'm remembering wrong, but I'm pretty sure I was a lot more on the side of he's young, give him time. This isn't really that big of a deal. And I think that, I think this is a year after next type of conversation, because I mean, the fact of the matter is tomorrow's March, right? We're right up. We're basically in March of this year. How much is he going to do in the last month of the season unless he shows up into camp next year and just, is a brick wall I guess. If he has a crazy summer program and does really well then I guess maybe he can inject some confidence in the organization then. But then, like, are you going to go through free agency and just go like, oh, like, our backup plan if one of those two guys gets hurt is or doesn't perform well, right? I mean, that is just going to be Cossa. I don't know. I think they ideally the organization wants him to prove himself for another year in the NHL. I don't think for me to say next year, he would have to be like on the cusp of the NHL right now. And I don't think even as well as he's been playing lately, that is reality. I don't think he's like the organization's like, oh, like Cossa is maybe coming up soon. Like, I don't think that's a conversation anyone's having upstairs. So I maybe he debuts at some point next year if there's injuries or for a game or two or something, maybe toward the end of the season if he's playing well. But I think like long-term, like solidified spot, you're still talking about season after next.
No, I completely agree with you, which is, not uncommon on this podcast. We agree with each other quite a bit. When it comes to just prospects in general, but including Sebastian Cossa, Yzerman is clearly preaching patience. I mean, how much are we banging the drum to get Simon Edvinsson and Jonathan Berggren up to the NHL level this year because they look ready? And Yzerman's preaching patience, saying, I mean, one, at this point, part of that's chemistry, but also just wanting that team to learn how to play together before they come up. That patience is expounded upon when it comes to goaltending prospects, because goalies can take, and it's a little bit of a generalization, a little bit of a stereotype, but goalies tend to take longer to develop, as we're seeing. I mean, Sebastian's 21 now, so it could still be a couple more years before he's like NHL ready. But at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if you see him make his NHL debut sometime next season. Like, you're looking at a situation where James Reimer is an expiring contract. And while it seems like the Red Wings are going this direction where they carry 3 goaltenders, and it was very smart by them to do so because we saw them lose Husso and Lyon in December and have to rely on Reimer and Hutchinson. I mean, at some point next year, I could see if this development continues and he starts next season playing great, he might get a look at the NHL level if injuries occur yet again. But I'm with you with Lyon playing as fantastic as he has for as long as he has. To me, he's this team's starter now at this point. Unless he has unless he collapses again like he did last year in the playoffs, I don't see Lyon getting budged out of that crease. Husso, you got another year left on his deal. I don't think there's a point in getting rid of Husso. He's an expensive backup, but that's easily evened out by the fact you're paying Lyon nothing. I think it's like, I'm with you. I think it's a year after next type thing. I think a year after next is when you go, okay, Sebastian Cossa, here's your chance. But again, he's going to have to earn it too. You're not going to just hand him to the crease. So that's why I say maybe throw him a couple starts next year if you can, because he's going to need an opportunity to prove that he can have the crease at the NHL level. And if he does take over 2 years from now, the year after next, it's going to be after a couple of looks and they realize, okay, this is a clear-cut better option than whatever we have as 1A or 1B currently.
Yeah,
but
goalie's just unique in that sense where you can't, bury a goalie on the fourth line. Like you have to be confident in it and have him really carve out a solidified spot. Even if it's the 1B, like that dude's still going to be in net for 30 to, 40 games for you, right? Like, so yeah, that is, I don't think he's on the precipice of that. So I think that's a year after next thing.
Absolutely. Let's move on now to our preview of the New York Islanders. This is another big game for the Detroit Red Wings because the Islanders, as you all know, we've talked about it kind of at on end here, are chasing you down and trying to chase you down in the wild card. Red Wings have done a very good job of expanding that gap. I think they have currently, let's see here. The Islanders are slipping real bad. They're now the 4th team on the out looking in. Of course, there's only 2 points of separation between the 4th and the 1st team on the out looking in. But the Islanders have 62 points. Red Wings have 72 points, so a 10-point gap. But that doesn't mean the Red Wings can walk into this and take it easily, because if you win, that's 12 points. You essentially knock the Islanders out of any contention ahead of the deadline. They would probably end up selling. I think that this game could be the dagger to the New York Islanders season if you beat them. You already beat them once in overtime, and they're not playing well under new head coach Patrick Waugh either. This is a team that is really struggling to find its identity and its footing, especially when you bring in a new coach with a new system. The Red Wings have an opportunity to put a dagger in the New York Islanders season, and I'm really excited to see if the Red Wings can extend their Yzerman era high win streak to 7 games.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's two teams, right? And like if that is true, then the Islanders are going to be kind of playing for their lives as well on the other side there. So this is very far from a gimme. I do think that, I mean, the Wings are clearly the better team and the better roster. The Islanders have just had such a weird season. I mean, we were talking about it a little bit before air. They're really not that good at anything. Like, the only thing that has really been keeping their head above water is the fact that they have gotten phenomenal goaltending, which has been pretty consistent in this current era of Islanders hockey. They've gotten solid goaltending this year. And like, that's really the only thing that's keeping them afloat. They have the single worst penalty kill in the entire NHL, and the Wings obviously have a top 10 power play. Their power play is pretty middle of the pack, but I mean, even just like even strength and just straight up goal scoring, they're in the bottom 10 in the NHL and just goals scored a game. I mean, this is a team that really, if you are able to put up goals, which is obviously this is a sounding very much like a Joe Buck comment here, but like, if you're able to score goals, you will win. And I just mean that from how the Islanders are built. I mean, they're not, I'm probably going to jinx it and we'll lose like 7-5 tomorrow, but like, they're not, running up the score on too many teams. This is a team that, again, is really being kind of kept alive. And the only reason they're hanging around the picture is because of goaltending. So if you can kind of crack that armor, then yeah, you should. Again, you're the better team, and you're at home. This is a game that you should go into and expect to win.
So in the last 13 games since Patrick Roy took over, they're ranked, I think, 21st in the league at 5-on-5 shot attempt share, which is Corsi 4 percentage for you people out there. They're still a pretty good defensive team at suppressing shots. That's been their system since Barry Trotz was their head coach. They have allowed a 31st in the league in shot attempts against at 5-on-5. Only 636 shot attempts against at even strength this year, which is really good, really good. And that's not surprising considering they suppress shots. And like you said, couple that with good goaltending, they stay in games. But the problem is it's the same problem they've always had, despite who their head coach is. They've never been able to generate enough goals. They're also near the bottom of the league in shot attempts for. They're 26th in the league in shot attempts for, which is worse than the Detroit Red Wings, who routinely don't outshoot opponents. The Red Wings are 22nd in the league at even strength at shot attempts for, where the Islanders are 26th. The difference here is the Red Wings don't shoot a lot by design. They value quality over quantity. And while I don't know the Islanders enough to say whether or not that is what they're also doing, I do know the Islanders enough that they're such a defensive-oriented team that's why they're not shooting the puck a lot, is because they focus on suppressing their opponents. So, I mean, it's probably going to be a low-scoring game. I mean, at the same time, the Red Wings put up a lot of goals every single game because they are so selective. In fact, this might be one of those games where being selective benefits you because of the fact that like you're not going to shoot unless you have a grade A chance. So we'll see, obviously, but I think this is a very vulnerable Islanders team from everything that you and I have just stated. You mentioned the power play and the penalty kill for them. The penalty kill, despite being, that's so strange, right? Being one of the best defensive teams in the NHL at suppressing shot attempts.
Yeah, they have good goaltending and they suppress shots, but they have the worst PK in the league.
Like, figure that one out, because I cannot.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so...
But again, like I said, like this is, we view it from the Wings perspective. This is a team that, if you're right and this, could be a nail in the coffin type of game, then they're going to be playing for their lives, man. That they're not just going to like roll over and just be like, oh, season over. Like they're gonna fight hard, and it's gonna be a really big and important game for the team on the other side too. So it's certainly the Wings should go into this feeling like they should win, but far from a gimme too.
Absolutely. Scotty, do you have any final thoughts?
I don't think so, man. We ball.
Are we only saying that after wins? The other thing?
Yeah.
Okay, only after wins. Okay. We'll be back with a new episode tomorrow, recapping the game against the Islanders, so stay tuned for that. Same time, same place. It's your team every day.